find your passion. It's not about the money to start off with. It's about your passion. If you can keep that going, the money follows. We've been working together now 33 years. Ever since day one, we bounce ideas off each other, and you've got to be able to turn around to each other and say, it's crap that.
How did you guys figure out the business part and actually manage to grow the company in the early stages?
So
You just got me hooked now.
it is such a privilege to be part of this industry, and there are many, many reasons why you won't make it. However, you don't want lack of effort to be the one of them.
I see so many agency owners that build a prison for themselves.
99 times out of 100, if your gut's saying something isn't right, it's not right.
Your revenue is somewhere around $3 million. You must be doing something right to keep your business alive over the past 20 years.
We did a...
John, you said off camera that you're not a particularly good business owner.
Yeah.
Or businessman.
Yeah.
But according to Apollo, your revenue is somewhere around $3 million. I'm not sure how accurate that is because these tools aren't always the best. But you've got 2 locations, around 20 team members. You must be doing something right to keep your business alive over the past 20 years.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? I mean, I am a terrible businessman. I'm creative first and foremost. A lot of the time, you wouldn't believe the imposter syndrome that creeps in daily, even at this age, after this many years. As my business partner, Rich, always says, though, fuck, we've been doing this for 21 years. We must be doing something right. It's not a fluke. And he has to constantly remind me, and I have to remind him that it can't be a fluke. If we've done it this long, we've got to do something right somewhere. But it's 20 years of a complete and utter roller coaster. You wouldn't believe the lessons learned along the way, because we didn't have any teacher, didn't have a clue what we were doing. I would say that one of the best moves we ever did was basically our first hiring was a finance director. So we got up and running after about 2 months of dicking about, chasing invoices and things. It was like, there's got to be an easier way of doing this. And thankfully it was the agency that we'd worked at previously. After that had gone through a merger, the FD had been made redundant because that's what happens in mergers. They don't need 2 finance directors. So the one we knew, he'd kind of gone freelance working for a PR company. And we just basically sort of got in touch and said, you fancy doing some books for us? Mm-hmm. And that was, I mean, if you think about over 20 years, if you've got a good money man, not only is he good at basically counting it and giving it, he'll keep you out of prison. Because the first thing he said was, the only person that's really going to shut your business down is the taxman. He's the only one with the power to do it. And you can be late on payments, you can do everything, which we've never been, but you can be, and people will chase. The taxman doesn't wait. The taxman comes knocking, and when he comes knocking, he doesn't go away.
And he's a bastard.
Yes. Oh, yes. And it's, I mean, over the years we've had a visit and we had first and sort of witness to the whole thing. So we've been going about, 10, 12 years. We were in a shared office, and I got a phone call from reception, and it was like, there's a guy here to see you. And it's like, don't just see people who turn up. It's like, no, he says he's from the revenue. You should come down and see him. Walked down, and he took me over into a corner, and he said to me, have you ever watched those programs where somebody turns up and asks you for money, and if you don't pay them, they shut you down? And I was, I haven't, but I can pretty much guess what you're saying from that. And my FD at the time was in Florida on holiday, so totally different time zone and everything. And he said, well, this is one of those moments. And, you've not been paying national insurance. I was like, we have. And he was, no, you haven't. No, you haven't. I was like, okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll have a quick look at the bank account. So I call up the bank account, have a look at it, and you go, oh, no, here. See, it's been paid. It's been paid. I could go back. He's like, give me 1 minute. Phones up the office. Goes out. This is rather embarrassing. Oh. We seem to have got your company number wrong, and I should be suing somebody else. It was like, but that was a moment of like, that heart-stopping moment. And I think, over the years, there's been many, many heart-stopping moments, but that was one of those you think, geez, and thank God we've got a good finance guy. And I absolutely knew he he'd done it, and he'd been paying it, and we hadn't missed anything. But if you didn't have that, you'd be like, oh, hold on a second, and I can't get in touch with him because he's fast asleep in Florida. But whoa, what the hell would we have done? But you think, yeah, that was one of the best moves we ever did, and he's still with us today. I mean, he's early 70s now, so he's still working with us to this day, keeping the ship steady. Even.
How was there enough between yourself, your business partner, and a financial director? How was there enough for him to be working on full time?
It wasn't full time to start off with. So initially we got him in on a freelance consultancy basis. It was like just do basically a day a week for us, just keep on top of everything, and that's what he did. And to this day, he now does 3 days a week, and 1 day in the office, 2 from home, and just keeps everything flowing.
You mentioned imposter syndrome. I think a lot of people experience imposter syndrome, especially in the early stages. It's interesting that you say that it's something you've experienced throughout the career as well, and even to this day. How have you managed to tackle that and I was going to say overcome it, but if you're still experiencing it, how you managed to deal with it?
I don't know if I'll ever overcome it. I think you tackle it through humour. I think you basically go into rooms full of kids who are just full of so much confidence, and you just think, wow. Which I think there's something to do with. I know a lot of people now in the industry who've come from very different, socio backgrounds, and I think if you've had a certain kind of education, you carry a confidence with you, which both myself and Rich are working class kids, basically blagged our way into this. And I think you don't necessarily carry that confidence with you in the day to day. However, you basically know. I'm confident in my lane, so in what I do, I know deep down I'm actually quite good at it, and I'll have an argument with anybody about stuff that's in my lane. I think the problem that I suffer from is, probably a lot of people, is I'm very poor at talking about things outside of my lane. And, you probably got more knowledge than the person that's talking to you about it. However, there's just this thing of I'm going to get found out. I'm going to get found out. I'm going to get found out. Yeah, and I think also being creative, every single day you wake up and say, was yesterday the last day I wrote a good ad? Because I've got to do it again today. What if it doesn't happen? And you'll never know when was the last time you write something that was any good. And you think, wow, so that's always playing on your mind. But I think it's something that a lot of creative people suffer with. They suffer with that kind of that lack of confidence in things. I mean, you'll meet arrogant pricks who, absolutely dominate a room, and all good to them, But I think you've got to, really dig deep to overcome that fear of, but every single day is a rejection. What we do is we think of ideas, we put them down on a piece of paper, or we put, more likely now is we're creating them on a screen for someone to say, oh shit. And you've spent your entire career with every single day someone telling you that 90% of your output is shit, 10%'s all right. Well, to say 8%'s all right, and 2%'s probably quite good. And I've worked obviously in a creative team with Rich since 1991. So we've been working together now 33 years, but our relationship's always been this in terms of sitting opposite each other. Ever since day one, we bounce ideas off each other, and you've got to be able to turn around to each other and say, it's crap that.
Yeah.
And not take it too personally. But you then creating all this stuff, you then take it out into the world, you go to see a client, and you're laying your soul bare by saying, I think I've got a really good idea. What do you think? And they go, yeah. Little part of you dies. And I think because that's what we do, that seeps into everything else. So when you think you've got a good idea for something else that's outside of the business, part of you saying, I'm just waiting for that person to come along and tell me that this is fucking crap. And you've got to get over that. And you never do. Well, I didn't, and I don't know any other creative who has. I mean, lots of creatives, and we all, when we sit around and talk to each other, we all suffer from exactly the same.
Yeah.
We're all, and it's terrible. Yeah. But then that leads into, well, how the hell do you run a business? I suppose the other thing is what it does do is create a remarkable thick skin.
For sure.
So, and you've got to pick yourself up and go again, time and time again. So creatively, you do something, whether it's Rich telling me it's crap, whether it's one of the account directors or planning director, Kate, that she's saying that, it's off brief, or whether you got to see a client and they say, you pick yourself up and you go again. So, right, that might be, but what about this? And what about this? And what about, and you go back to it. And you bring that to business and say, no matter what you do, if it falls over, it doesn't matter. I know I've got another idea. I know I've got something else. Let's go again. And we've dipped our toe into so many different facets of the business and the industry. And then you go, right, that's not working. You don't dwell on it too long. You say, I can go again. But the bit at the back of your head is like, is that not worked because I don't know what I'm doing? And if I did know what I'm doing, that would have worked really well. But no, I don't. So, but it's like, right, back to the drawing board. Let's go again. And
it's probably more likely that the people that you see as well that seem to, because it's really interesting to hear you speak about this, because what you're really talking about is acceptance of a repetition of failure, and that's all really business is. It's just like a repetition of failure every day and accepting it and moving on from it and then changing. One of the big things that I preach about, I had a sales background, so I used to cold call a lot, 150 companies a day for years, and that built me a lot of resilience. I was terrible at it at the start. There's so much resilience just being told no, and it's one of the first things that I get agency owners to do is get on the phones and just get loads of rejection in you, because if you haven't had that, you're buggered. But coming into kind of the creative process, you're, by your own admission, in that lane. Your business partner as well is presumably a creative as well.
Yep.
So how did you guys figure out the business part and actually manage to grow the company in the early stages?
It's hilarious because our first company was called Unsuitable. So we thought we were being really clever. I mean, there's a thing where, just rewind 20 odd years. We worked in an agency. Absolutely loved that agency. Loved the people who worked there. Loved the whole culture. Loved everything about it. But the owners were getting on a bit. They decided enough was enough. They wanted to sell up, and they sold to another agency, which, from an arrogant point of view, I was like, "What? They can't buy us. They're shit." That's the wrong way around. The company, and these guys came in, and don't get me wrong, they were the best intentions, doing it all for the right reasons. But what they do then is come to it with a total money head. So we'd worked in an agency it's all about creativity. It's all, and it would produce some amazing work. There's a great culture, lots of different teams competing on things, really good. These guys came in, it was just money, which it's like, well, that's not necessarily a creative business. I mean, money's obviously very important. Let's not get away from that. But it's like, actually, there's a culture and there's a creativity to this. And so we kind of fell out with them pretty quickly because it was just such a culture shock. And it was one of those things where, well, we're going to set up our own agency. We'll show you. Don't ever do anything in anger. Especially something as life-changing as, I'm going to give up. We're on the board, we're creative directors, great pension, healthcare, company cars, the lot. Okay, I've got a 2-year-old at home. Richard got a 3-year-old. We're going to give it all up and we're going to do our own thing. And we're going to set up our own agency. And we don't need anybody. There's an arrogance to us, and an anger. We don't need them. We're going to call ourselves Unsuitable because we're creatives, and no one in the other industry. If you want a house building, you don't talk to an account manager. You go and talk to an architect. It should be the same with ours. Like, what a mistake that was. So within, I think, probably 6 months, it was, we need a suit. Shit, we need a suit. We've messed up, but you've put the marker out there.
Yeah.
And that every other agency owner and everybody else in the industry is just laughing at you, saying, "Yeah, knew you idiots." And you're thinking, "Yeah, but that's fine." And but the weird thing was as well, the name. You call it that, thinking you're being all clever, and then suddenly you find out a few years down the line, it's like, "Yeah, I wanted to appoint you, but there's no way I could go to my board until I was appointed an agency called Unsuitable. Because if it went wrong, the board would just slaughter me and say, well, what did you expect? The only client we found that loved the name was Honda.
Interesting.
And
Why do you think that is?
I think culture.
Right.
So a different culture at Honda.
Right.
On the whole thing. And it was like, we absolutely, it's like, well, you're the only ones. So it basically became, we need to change this. We need to change what it is and change the whole thing around it. And then you've kind of gone through the years and you've had various account managers. We've had some terrible hires. We've had some terrible people and things. And it's all, you take it on the chin, and so it's all my fault. My hiring policy was appalling. And then we were so fortunate about 8 years ago, Kate came and started doing a little bit of freelance with us. She was planning director, brought a whole new level of professionalism to everything. It was just like, that's what we've been missing. That really is what we've been missing. But we've grown quite big. We've got some of our biggest clients at that point. We'd done really well, but it was, how the hell have we got here? We don't really know. She came in. It's like, no, this is, let's bring some grown-ups into the whole thing. And she was brilliant, and and it's to this day of just sort of bringing that level head, and that rational brain to everything, taking the emotion out of it, which can flare up quite easily with creative guys. And so she came in and it was like, well, that was the bit we were waiting for. And then since then, it's kind of, well, actually, we've just gone from strength to strength to strength, because we're not just running around saying, wouldn't it be brilliant if we did this? No, let's just sort of step back a bit and think about it a little bit more logically and a little bit more rationally. She's fantastic in front of clients, and she can be the one that brings that sensibility, and then almost bring in the gregarious creatives to sort of do a little dance in a pitch, and show some crazy work and try and sing a song. And you can fulfill your role a little bit. But it's very difficult to do that if you're trying to be the serious person as well. So it was, so that was just fantastic that we brought her in. But it was weird because we had 15 years, best part of at least 13 years, where we were just, you look back on it now and think, we were winging it. We thought we were when you're in the eye of the storm, you think everything's, we know what we're doing, this is fantastic. It's only when you look back on it you think, oh my life. We had some terrible account handlers. Because again, one of the other lessons is, it's very difficult to hire people who aren't in your sort of in your kind of model. So when you start to say, I need to hire somebody who's completely different mindset. We creatives feel really comfortable hiring creatives because I know what's good, what's not. I can spot a blagger. When it comes to anything outside of that, so you talk about account managers, developers, sort of the media people, you just look and go, I don't really understand what you do. So I can't judge, and before Kate came along, our interview technique was, it'd be reversed. So you'd get somebody in and we'd sit there for half an hour, selling ourselves, basically begging, come work for us. We're really cool. This is a really good place. And it's like, and then you'd hire the wrong people. Because they'd get in the place and it's like, actually, you're like a fish in a tree. And then Kate comes in and says, right, no, we need, this is what we need from people. This is what we're going to do. We're going to put some structure to it and we're going to do that. And it was just like, oh, well, that's how you do it. So you do, but having the sort of admission, what would have been, sort of 6-7 years ago, I'd have been mid-40s. And still being able to sort of say, well, actually, I don't know it all. I can get it so wrong.
So before she's in, how specifically were you getting clients?
Referral. Pretty much everything came through referral.
So one client to another client to another client, like a chain of
people we knew. Just say, actually, these guys are really good. Why don't you give them a shot? Or just people we knew from our past, and and just people we'd met along the way, and clients that moved from one place to another place, and it was that all just people we knew who was basically working within a business in a completely different sector, but said, I can get you an introduction to the marketing team. So it was all referral. But that limits you. You know, we've always been organic growth. Never looked to purchase anybody, never looked to be bought by anybody. I think there's a little bit of a hangover, which is wrong, from the merger we went through that led to us setting up the agency in the first place. That's kind of a mental barrier that we've never been quite able to get over. You know, so we've always tried to do everything through, you know, organic growth. But that limits you so much in terms of, I think I heard you.
It's hard to predictably scale at that point.
I sort of one of your previous things saying, you know, I'd rather have a slice of watermelon than a whole grape. And I think, wow, yeah, that's, you know, there's something about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I don't know. It's been difficult because it's our baby.
Yeah.
And it's always been our baby, and that's tough to sort of give that up. But one day we're going to have to hand it over to the team, or, you know, work till we're dead.
What is your plan? Do you want to exit the business in the future?
No, the plan has always been step back, don't step away. So if we can get to a point where I don't have to take the pressure on my shoulders every single day, if I can get to that point where I can say, well, actually, you know what, there's a team here, run it. And I don't have to worry about it. And I'd love to be able to just say, well, I'll pop in from time to time, I'll work on briefs, I'll do these little bits, I'll keep my hand in, but I don't want the pressure of running an agency. Because, again, as a creative, all you want to do is sit down and do some work. It's very difficult to do that when you've got the machine of an agency that needs everything looking after.
So do you and Richard then both have the ability, or you're still in the trenches with service delivery, as far as, like, that's really interesting, and it's something. So I've got a great friend, Lucas, he has a creative agency called Hamby Media, and they're based in London. They've got a great team, and they've scaled really heavily over the years. But Lucas was always the initial creative. In fact, the way we met was that he joined one of our programs, but then he recorded a YouTube video for us and for his agency and done a whole bunch of stuff. But then over time, he had to come off the tools and he put his camera down, and then the team started taking over and he hired. And I think that's something that he always has missed somewhat, being able to be in that place of the business. So it's interesting that you have been able to maintain that over the years. Do you think that is from a pure place of passion and love for the craft, or a fear of other people not being able to live up to the same standard?
Both. In the early days, it was very much the latter. We, you know, hired people who didn't quite hit the mark, and you know, because you kind of have your standards and you say, well, I need this. But then 3 years ago, I think, we found this creative team, Jenny and Tristan, who have been an absolute revelation to us, because before then, every single brief pretty much that came in rested on mine and Richard's shoulders. And it was, we've got to do this. And even when you're working with freelancers to come in and do stuff, or you've got your designers and your artwork, you've got to give them the meat on the bones and say, right, just do something with this. But you've still got to do that initial thing. So virtually every initial thought for everything that we did came from our heads. Jen and Tristan came in and was like, oh, actually, we've finally found someone who can do this, who can lift that burden, do it better than us. And it's just like, wow, that's such a... And again, you go back to, it stunts your growth, because, you know, we had, you know, a big client that, you know, at one point was representing 50% of the income in the agency. And they insisted it was myself and Rich that was on it. And that was a client that demanded 3 brand new campaigns every single year, with lots of other stuff in between that was all pretty much brand new, to exactly the same brief. And we kept that client for 8 years. And for 6 of those, that was myself and Rich just coming up with new campaigns on the same brief every single time. And you just think, there's nothing you can do. You can't look elsewhere, because... And that was the danger. So again, you've reached a sort of plateau in terms of growth, because, well, that's now taking virtually all our time. And we can look at a couple of other little bits for different clients, but this is there's not a day goes by that there's not something to do for this client, and it's all on our shoulders. Yeah. I mean, you'd bring people in, and instantly the client would say, "I can tell you've not done that." Like, oh, okay, back on it. Yeah, but thankfully, we got these guys in, and they absolutely from day one just started smashing out work that was better than we could do. You just think, wow, that was what was needed, and now it kind of gives us time to focus on a variety of clients. Also focus on other elements of the business. We're both now very much involved in trying to grow the business from basically bringing in new opportunities to the place, and saying, well, we can do a lot more of that now that we could have never done before. So that's, it's really good from that. And you think, well, that's where you go again. You're learning as you go along.
Of course. You just said something really interesting. Just correct me if I'm wrong, that one of your clients there was 3 major campaigns a year, but it was still enough work for you to be working daily on that client. So, I mean, there are levels to this shit. And so on the creative process, I mean, some creative agencies, obviously deliverables are completely different. But for 3 campaigns, is that 3 visual ads, or is that multiple? Fine.
Multiple, yeah.
Fine.
Big
many
different
stuff.
Iterations, yeah. Okay. And then there's all the different little one-offs in between. They're like, we need this has happened. Can you do as an ad for this, or a little campaign? So there's lots of little campaigns in between, but there's 3 major campaigns a year that needed to be delivered. Yeah, and then lots of little things filling your day. What's
your personal favourite, or one of your favourite campaigns that you've worked on in the past for a client?
We did what I thought was a superb campaign for National Express students. And it was great because we basically did all this research that was the first trip home by a student. It determines their travel habits throughout their entire time at university. And it was wonderful because you got these 2 old fuckers in me and Rich working on this brief, but our daughters had just gone to university. So we were going through from the other side. It's like, right, how do we do this without doing these kind of really cliched, crap campaigns, which everybody seemed to be doing, which was you go home to have your washing done, or you're fed up of eating beans, so you want a Sunday dinner, and and it was all of this, and it was like, oh God, we've got to stay away from all of this. And we just turned it and said, well, actually, going through this for the first time ourselves, and kids going off to uni, was you start to get a bit of your life back as a parent, because they've kind of gone, and you're going, right, okay, so there's this little bit of freedom, so let's do it from the other side of, they've gone. Now, what can we do now that they've kind of left and gone away? And there was just this thought of, because of the pricing structure, like you could just go and get on a bus at any time, and you won't pay a fortune compared to the train. You've got to book 3 weeks in advance, so you can go home at any point you want. However, be careful what you're going home to, because you're going to get home and suddenly, so we'd set it up as, loads of different ideas. But nice. The 2 that ran was, mum and dad are now, in the garden naked, gardening, and then the other one was like they're having a hot tub swingers party. And then, so you're walking on, you're just stumbling in as a surprise. And that, and the results off the back of that were just superb. And you just think, but it was fun for a client that a lot of the time did not buy fun.
Yeah.
And let us have that creative freedom on that, saying, actually, because of the audience, we can do something, a little bit more out there on this. So that worked. That worked really well for them. But it was fun to do, fun to work on, it was one of those things where you just and it was TV, press, poster. We even did a competition where we gave away a hot tub to a student. I mean, what student? I think you're living in halls and you've just won a hot tub that's being delivered.
It's for the parent swingers party.
Exactly. Just like that's brilliant. So it worked really well.
That's awesome.
But again, just trying to have fun with all that. And they're the best things, best briefs to work on. So we can have some fun with them.
Yeah, definitely. How has, because presumably your service has changed quite a lot over the years, because like creative, just the way creative is used and digested is just completely different, presumably. So like, how has your service grown, and has that been quite difficult for you to adapt, or has it been a very natural progression over time?
I think the issue is when you've been doing it as long as we have, you've seen every single cycle. And every time something new comes along, it seems to scare the horses. But you just think, yeah, I've been here before. I mean, we were there at the birth of websites. Yeah, it's and it's hard to just give you an idea of how old we were. We had, within our first job, we were once given a laptop and told, right, you've got to go on email now. And we had an email that was John and Rich, between us, and it was John ampersand Rich. Never even realising for a second that an ampersand might be quite something difficult to say to somebody, because I was, well, what the fuck's an ampersand? The squiggle thing that means and.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what an ampersand.
Yeah. And so it's like, that you totally not knowing it. And then we've been through the whole social media revolution, and that was, so websites were going to finish off the industry. Then social media was going to finish off the industry. Now, programmatic and everything else is going to finish off the industry. And now all of a sudden, AI is going to finish off the industry. It's kind of, actually, And I get the fears. We had a lot of students coming to see us a couple of Fridays ago. And, we put up a slide to talk to them, is advertising a career worth getting into? One of the slides was, isn't AI just going to steal my job? It's like, well, yes and no. It'll steal some people's jobs, of course. Yeah, it will, and I think it's terrifying. We don't know where it's going to go, but we've kind of been here a little bit before. We've tried all these different things. We at one point we were very much focused on providing web services to clients, and we went down that path quite heavily about 2007, 2008. That was one of the biggest mistakes we made. It was, you got 2008, you got the crash. That was awful. The 2008 crash was absolutely god awful. We talk about COVID, but the 2008 crash was just like, whoa! It's like someone had just literally switched the taps off worldwide on everything. But the one thing that kept on going was people saying, "Well, actually, I still need a website, so I need to do this." So I was like, okay. So we started doing that sort of. But that again comes back to you're suddenly hiring people you don't know what they do. And you've taken your focus off that, because we're then getting people in. And it was great because we got some clients who basically, we won a big car account. Said, right, we want you to look after our entire digital space. Wow, yeah, great, we can do that. Let's do that. We've got some people in. Suddenly realised those people weren't capable of actually dealing very well with clients on face to face, because bless them, like creatives are on their own. Developers are something altogether different again. And so we suddenly found ourselves being distracted from the advertising side of the business to look at, managing, web agency clients. Well, that's not my skill set. It's something you ended up, doing, working with clients that you've got a rapport with and a relationship with, and trying to back all this up. But, that was a disaster for us in terms of it was great lessons. One, don't lose focus on what you're good at, because it's so easy in this industry. There's always a shiny new thing that you say, and and we're awful as an industry. So to be those kind of agencies and those kind of people that say, "Is there some money to be made out of that?" Right, we need to be on that. If there's money to be made out of it, we need to be on it. And there's an industry we kind of shift our focus and go, right, let's all do that. One's thinking, is it the right thing for us to be doing? And I think one of the good things with myself and Rich is, probably to our detriment, is money's great. Don't get me wrong. Money makes the world go round. It's important. We have to make money. We have to keep our people, pay their mortgages. We have to do all this. But we set up our agency in the first instance to enjoy what we do. Because you spend 40 plus years in a career, you're there 5 days a week, you're putting your heart and soul into it. Wouldn't it be awful to get to the end of that and say, never enjoyed a day of it? Whereas you want to be able to get to the end and say, the very few days I didn't like. Now, if you can do that, that's worth more than any of the money in your pocket. If you can get to the end of your career and go, well, you know what, I enjoyed that.
Do you think you're close to that?
Close to the end of my career, or close to just
being able to say that you have truly enjoyed.
Yeah.
And what do you think is the secret to that? Because I see so many agency owners that build a prison for themselves, and because they're so fueled by it as a financial vehicle rather than as a means for them to fuel their passion. So what do you think the secret is to
doing what you enjoy? I mean, I suppose it's different if you're on the creative side of it. It's kind of nice because you've got that release every single day to say, well, I'm going to create something today. I'm going to actually do something that at the end of the day I can see something either on paper or on screen that is just like, yeah, that's come from somewhere in there. Yeah. If you in other parts of the business, you've got to get your kicks from other things, and I'm sure people do. Yeah, and it's we often talk about the culture in the agency. And we're not one of these agencies that says, right, we're all going to get together and we're all going to go off and build a raft, and do all of these things. We're going to have these days out, and we're going to do, and it's like, we're going to fly everybody over to Marbella for a few days. We're not that kind of agency, because our culture has always been based around where's the job satisfaction, and the job satisfaction is in us all, not just the creators, but us all doing a great job for our clients and producing something that you'd be proud to say to your mum, I worked on that. So whether you're the creative, the art worker, the account handler, whoever you are, even the finance director, I worked on that, or I worked for the agency that did that. That's and that for us is like that feeling is just like, that's where the culture comes from. That's where passion comes from. And that's what we've always had. We've had the passion to try and say, right, can we do this just a little bit better? Can we do, everything we do, can we say we're proud to have done that? So if someone says, well, what did you do today? Well, actually, I did this. Well, I didn't really do much. It's like, no, I did this. This is a really nice idea, and I'm proud of it. It might not even run. Might not even go anywhere, but it's like, I'm quite proud of that, and I'm proud of the team that pulled together to try and make it happen. I think that, and it's, if you can get to the end of your career having spent majority of it doing that, then that's a good place to go. So don't get me wrong. I know obviously you're going to have lots of aspiring agency owners, listening to this, and they'll not be creative, and they'll be thinking, well, what that's no barrier to actually setting up an agency and doing what you do. But find your passion. It's not about the money to start off with. It's about your passion. If you can keep that going, the money follows. Because people see the passion. People buy passion. And then they say, well, actually, if you care that much about what you're doing for me, then I'll buy into you. But if it's all just about, well, what's the revenue? What's the margin on this? What can I sell you to make a couple of quid for myself? Like, is it best interest to me, or is it just you're looking after the margin for yourself? And so I think,
there's plenty of agencies out there offering the same services, and they're just commoditized, and they don't realize the only reason they're not getting clients and they're getting no interest is because they're just so selfish. They're not thinking about actually doing a great job. They're not thinking about how great can I make this case study, and like how great can I wear this on our chest. They're just thinking about, can I get couple grand a month for this client and start earning some money with the business, and it's completely arse backwards. And so it doesn't matter if you're an email agency or a web agency or an SEO agency, which is probably what I can imagine to be one of the more mundanes. If you're just driven by doing a great job and being the best at what you do, because you can be the best at what you do in anything.
Absolutely.
And so that's the key, really.
I think but it's also knowing as well. I mean, we were being burnt on these things. 2007, 2008 onwards, there's this kind of big rush to websites and social media. So social media kicked off. I think 2008 was Facebook launch and all the it's kind of, we were 5 years old as an agency at that point, thinking, we'll have a bit of that, we'll have a bit of that. But what we quickly realised with it, I say quickly, it probably took about maybe 5 or 6 years, that clients were looking at it and going, this is all great, but I could get someone in to do that. And as soon as it became something like, well, actually, I don't see loads of thinking in this. So it comes down to, it's commoditized. So, if actually all you're doing is doing a post that says, well, actually, we're going to do a Throwback Thursdays was a thing for a few years, or we're going to do a Sunset Sunday. Fucking hell do I need an agency for? What do I need to be paying you to do that for? I'll get some kid in the corner. Websites suddenly became, well, there's all these tools that I can build a basic website, off the back of. And so I can do that if I wanted something basic. And then the others ways are, well, actually what I need is a £5 million proper fucking e-commerce, all singing, all dancing website. Well, where do you sit as an agency in between that? Because you're sort of saying, well, I don't know. And then suddenly the proper tech companies are saying, well, we'll have a piece of that and we'll do that. We'll take the big stuff and we'll leave all the crap down here. And all the crap's getting people saying, well, actually, I can pretty much do that myself. And you go, yeah, well, okay, yeah. So it's like you come back to what you know and what you're good at, and then for us, it's like ideas. And AI is pretty much coming in and stealing the bottom end of the industry, because yet again, if I can get AI to write me 20 social posts in the next 15 seconds, and then also generate imagery for it, what do I need you for? Yeah. It's like, well, because that's not what we do. We have to be, where we sit is above that. We have to bring, and don't get me wrong, it will start to steal part of our dinner. But, as an agency based in Birmingham, in the main, you look at it and go, right, we've always had this sort of envious look down at London and everything that London does. And you're right, the main difference between us is mainly budgets. We do some great work. No denying London does some fantastic work. But the polish that they can put on it, because of the production budgets that they're given to do it, means that you never stand a chance. AI may just level that playing field a little bit more. That says, well, if I've got access to the same tools, then maybe I can start creating stuff with the same polish as you, and we can move on from that point. But who knows? I mean, AI is different from where it was this time last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's been moving quick. And you said something, I took a really good lesson from you and for everyone else as well a moment ago. And it's very unique to yourself, having been in the industry for so long. But you said that, like, when web came along, everyone's like, oh, this is the end of it. Oh, social media comes on, oh, this is the end of it. AI comes, oh, this is the end of it. But actually, if you observe all of those things have actually just really expedited opportunity in the long run.
Absolutely.
And so if you ever feel like that and there is something that you're looking at and you're like, shit, this could be the end of us, it's really an indicator that you should try and lean into that thing as much. But whilst also being mindful that it could be a distraction. So does it aid the thing you're already doing?
But I think what you got to do is look at it and say, well, there's opportunities in all of these things, but not believing that it replaces what you currently do. It's like currently, everyone you talk to, want content. What's the content? What do you content strategy? Give me a content strategy. Well, that's great. Content is just ideas. Now that's what I'm good at. You just want it in a format that is that shape, and it's fine. You can do content all day long, because what you want is, do you want content which is just some shit that you filmed with your iPhone that looks like shit, that goes out there and has cost you nothing? Or do you want a creative idea that's been made with love, with passion, with care, that actually shifts the dial for you? Now, most clients will say, well, I need both. I need stuff that I can just get out there and, well, you know what? I have somebody to do that. And that's fine. That's you can do that all day long, and you can probably do most of that in-house. But if you want someone to bring a little bit of sparkle to it, a little bit of thinking, a little bit of strategy to the whole thing, then you need to come talk to us. And let's just try and elevate everything you're doing. But content's the latest buzzword. Well, content's always been around. Everything I've done my entire career has been content. It's just lived in different spaces. And all it is now is it's a different space because it's a screen in front of your face.
If someone, hypothetically, I'm sure it's like there's a range and there's a lot of variables that come into play. If, like, hypothetically someone was to come to you and say, I need a hour-long sales video that sells my product, what is, at your now level of agency, what kind of ballpark are they looking at for something along those lines?
I've not been asked to do an hour-long thing.
Well, let's say half an hour. In hindsight, that's a very long sales video. I mean, there's probably like an extended webinar, I suppose. But but let's say it was like a 15-minute ad then.
It depends on what the content of it is. I mean, if you we work with people who'll just
from X to Y.
We'll send them up with a camera and a drone and go and film around a warehouse and do some headshot interviews and do those kind of things. That's 10,000 quid, 15,000 quid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not much. But if you want a proper ad, you want something with, that's actually sort of, production values in it, and and all those things. Then you start looking at saying, well, I need some money to think about it. That's going to cost you, 10, 20 grand in terms of my thinking time. And then you're going to have to give me some budget to make the thing and do all that thing. But it's going to be worth so much more to you at the end of it. And the latest thing is, rightly so. Well, if I'm going to invest this, give me 30 variables of it. So you start off with an idea, and then instantly it's like, what can we take out of that? Well, if we're going to go there for the day or for a few days and do that filming, what else can we grab that isn't necessarily part of the master script, but will be really good for us to sort of start dipping into and basically go, saying, well, we can take that little element there and we can create something out of that. And so let's just capture all that. So I think all clients are looking for far more value for money.
Yeah. Because,
it's all been democratized now. And, you're talking, every client's now got a phone in the pocket. Every phone's got a camera on it. The camera is pretty bloody good. Yeah. So they're saying, well, try and justify, the extra stuff and the extra, and you 9 times out of 10 you can. 1 time out of 10 you probably don't get the job. Yeah, fair. Just to bring you back to that point, because you've got me hooked now. What's if we're saying at the lowest end it could be 15k, what's the highest end of a 15-minute ad? No iterations. Oh, you're 6 figures? From us? Oh, yeah, definitely. Right. So the reason I asked you that question is because the reason is for that specific answer, because it's so normal to you at this stage of business. But there will be so many people watching this who are creative agencies who have even been in the game for 3-4 years now, that a 15k 15-minute ad is their absolute upper limit. That's like, if I can get something in. So it's very interesting to hear what your perception of what a great ad actually does cost, because it's completely different. I mean, that's the low end. I mean, if you're getting something at 100 to 200k, that's low end for a good quality thing. I mean, a lot of the stuff that you see out there at the moment will be costing a hell of a lot more than that. Hell of a lot more. Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, we always, we do try and deliver value by working with, production companies that really do sort of offer that little bit extra for that little bit less, and pushing that. But there's a lot of stuff out there that costs a hell of a lot more than that. And that, again, it's all stages, isn't it? Because I look at that stuff and say, that's where I want to be. I want to be getting up into those levels, and I want to be doing that. But you think, well, will we ever make that? But you also got to look at what you've currently got and go, well, I'm quite happy with that. I'm doing some really nice stuff. We're making some really good things, and it's it's powerful to be able to sort of do that, or empowering, should I say? So I just think, again, I enjoy what I do. I enjoy what the agency produces, and nothing gives me more pleasure than seeing something that the agency produces that I've had nothing to do with. I loved it, when the teams come back and they come back from shoots and they come back and you sit down and you have a look at the rushes and you look at looking at the first cut and looking at you thinking, wow, this is amazing, and I've had nothing to do with it. And I love it, and I'm so proud of it. I'm proud of the team. I'm proud of the agency. I'm proud of the client. It's just, this is really good, and it's taken a long time to get to that point where I could do that, because everything had to be, well, I'm gonna hoard everything. I don't trust anybody. I've got to do everything myself. I've got to keep everything, within my grasp, to suddenly now be able to say, actually, I'm really, really pleased. Team win awards. Nothing gives you greater pleasure than sitting at a table and watching your team go up to the podium. I think it's probably the biggest struggle of like small to mid-sized agencies is relinquishing that control and being able to allow people. I had this conversation with a young agency that we're mentoring at the moment just yesterday, and she's saying that she's just really struggling to hand off the control to the team. Do you think that moment of actually having the right people that truly can just handle everything without your eye in at all, because it's all well and good someone creating good work and you having to give it an eye in and be like, yes, cool, yes, whatever, but and micromanaging the process somewhat, but it's a completely different story when the whole project is completed without you.
Do you think that's closer related to the amount of money you're paying the person to get the right kind of person, or company culture?
Company culture, but it's trust. We've had stuff happen in our history where trust has become a real issue. So it's taken a few years to be able to trust people again. I mean, without naming any names or going into too much detail for legal reasons, we had a partner in the business who, we were going through a really rough time financially and business-wise, to the point where you got, this. I'm going back 10, 12 years now, probably, maybe even further, about 12 years. And and it was one of those periods, and that's the thing, agencies up and down, and it was one of those things where 1 month you're thinking, I've got to do the salary run, all right, and you're paying everybody but yourself. So I know there's money coming in, but I've just got to wait for that money to come in, then I'll take my salary. So and there's myself and Rich, and we're like, well, I'll just hang on. We'll hang on. We'll get paid as soon as that that invoice is paid. It was one of those hand-to-mouth periods which you have to go through as you grow. It's not just one straight line from start to finish. It really is up and down. And there's one of the and it just, his eye was off the ball, completely off the ball. It's like, there's something going on here. There's really something going on. And and it turned out he was working for another agency. I mean, we're not talking about an employee having a side hustle or a side project. We're talking about a partner in the business, who we'd given equal shares to as well. So we're not talking the junior partner who's working away for 2%. We're talking, and we got our suspicions about it, and through various things, including private investigators and things like that. So it's like he's working for another, but not only is he working for this other agency instead of doing the work that needs to be done within this agency, because I've now got clients saying things aren't getting done, you're not hitting deadlines, you're like, shit, what we're going to do? It's really tough, and it's going to get tougher if we fuck this up. He was also using our credentials within that agency to win other business. So it's like, wow. So it's like, well, how do we do this? How do we exit this guy? I was really fucking angry, really angry about it. He's got to go. He's got to leave. And so you get all the evidence together. You present him with videos of him doing a fake pitch to a private investigator. All these things, all the madness. Exiting from there, and you think, oh God, You then, as you're looking through stuff, you uncover a plot that he'd got going on with his team, to basically put us in prison. So he's like, this is fucking hell. What? So you look at it and go, right, he's got this plot. I mean, it was fucking harebrained, but it was the way his head was working. But it was like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this,
and then to take the business,
and then but he was going to exit the business, and he was going to put all of these traps in place that would mean that there was a load of fraud going on. It's like, and then them fuckers can go to jail over it. It's like, it's like, I don't think you quite understand how the law works, but they pretty much track it straight back to you, you idiot. But at that point, you just think, well, and then we were sort of saying, right, at this point, I'm like, I'm not giving you a fucking penny for your shares. You just get out of the business. I am not giving you a thing, because once you've discovered that, that was just like that. Game over, that's it. And I remember it clear as day. We sort of, our office at the time was in Digbeth in Birmingham, so it's where Peaky Blinders is filmed and all that sort of stuff. And we've got this car park that was this old abandoned warehouse. On one of the evenings, I'd walked across to get my car, and I was the only person in there. I get a phone call from him, and he's fucking ranting and raving about this, that, and the other. I was just like, look, I just need you to fuck off. I just need you to go. I'm not going to give you anything. And at that point, he basically turned around and said, you do realise my wife's just had a miscarriage and it's all your fault. And I was like, what a kick in the guts. You just think, God. And you just stood there thinking, I don't know what to say. Because no matter what I think of anybody, I wouldn't want to put anybody through that.
Yeah.
No matter what you've done to me, no matter what you've said, no matter how you've behaved, I would not want to put anyone through that. So you're saying, right, I've taken that as a kick, and you're just there in this car park on your own. You're thinking, God, fuck, have I been too harsh? have I done it? You know, what? Oh, you know, anyway, 3 months later, there's pictures of him on Facebook with his newborn baby.
Oh my God!
And so it just shows again, character-wise, you're willing to lay that on somebody.
How did he become a director in the first place?
Exactly. Again, bad choices, bad hiring practices.
Oh,
But you think, oh my! And again, it comes back to, if you want to run an agency, it's an old phrase, isn't it? You've got to have skin thicker than a rhino. My God, you've got to have skin thicker than a rhino wearing a suit of armour. You've got to be so bulletproof. And again, it comes back to that. As a creative, you get that rejection. You become bulletproof. But you go through periods like that. But the trust you then lose in people, in humanity, the whole thing is just like, wow, how the hell did it? And then it's kind of taken years for that to come back, where you can say, well, actually, no, I can now trust people in my business to run accounts, to have direct connections with clients, to do the work, and basically me not to have to babysit it and oversee it and basically so hands-on. But that's after you've been through that
takes a long time.
Some coming back from. You just think, wow, that's you look back over it as a career, you think, yeah.
Some lessons to take there. But you progressed presumably beyond that point, and you've now won multiple awards as well as the agency as well.
Oh, we recovered from it pretty quickly as an agency.
Yeah.
But again, you don't realise at the time you're in the middle of it all, and you think, it's kind of weird because again it comes back to we had a business consultant in at the time, and I remember sitting down with him, and he said, that old team, and he said, you need them more than they need you. I was like, bullshit. This is mine. And Rich was the same. This is ours. This is we don't. And it was like, no, and you think, and so at the end, like, okay, we've got to prove him all right. So I'm shifting that lot out. The culture was toxic because it was just a bro club. Really was just toxic. The way they were like a pack of hyenas when they were hunting round on things. It's like, that's got to end. That's got to be moved aside. And we're going to start rebuilding this agency back to where we wanted it to be at the beginning, which was, I want it to be somewhere that I enjoy coming to every day. I want to enjoy work. I want to enjoy what I do. I don't want to be sat there thinking, I don't trust anyone in this room. It's like, no, it's got to get back to, I want this to be a collective of people who really enjoy what they're doing, and their only focus is doing a great job and enjoying it themselves. So, yeah.
That's interesting. So you went through a kind of big restructure there. How do you then kind of prevent fallout with existing team members who you do want to keep? Because presumably you're selecting people that you do want to keep that are a good fit, or was it a complete whitewash? And if it wasn't, how are you keeping those people happy whilst you're essentially rebuilding?
Ultimately, you've kind of only got, when you go through it all, you've only got the evidence on one person. While you suspect, other things, again, that trust issue, you've only got the evidence on one person. Okay, well, but very quickly it becomes, well, that person's been unceremoniously jettisoned from the business. You see the disciples. Yeah. And they instantly say, right, okay, I don't want to be part of this anymore. Great. You've saved me a job. Off you go. Thanks for everything. Appreciate everything you've done for me. But obviously, the culture is changing. You don't like the culture I want it to become, which is actually just be nice people. I can't overstate enough the benefits and the qualities of being nice in business. We've been reared on this kind of toxic culture of, Alan Sugar being horrible to people, Gordon Ramsay, I run a kitchen by just shouting at people and swearing and making people feel the pressure. And you're thinking, that's what it takes to be a boss. And it was, especially prevalent in the late 90s and early 2000s. That was kind of how you had to be. And you think, no, actually, you get far more from people by being a nice person. But then comes back to the hiring structure as well. Just hire nice people. You can, now I see it. Back then I didn't, which was, now I see it. You can see somebody who you think, right, they would be brilliant in this business because they're so focused and, you know what, they're a fucker. And I can tell that. In the past, it'd have been, bring them in and let's just see where it goes. They destroy everything around them. Absolutely destroy everything. And that's not you just hire lazy people who, because they're bringing a fucking cake on a Friday. No, it's not going to that extreme. But it's just hire people who are polite to each other. It doesn't take much in any business for you to suddenly have massive upset within a team because there's one person that doesn't know how to talk to people in a respectful way. No matter what, or even worse, they're horrible to the people around them. And then they're coming to see me as if they're the nicest person in the world. And you just think, well, so you do know how to talk to people. It's just that you've got this thing in your head where there's a structure to it, and that's infuriating.
Yeah,
you just think, no, be nice to everybody around you, no matter what position they are in the business.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's key. I've had one or two of those that come to me, and you're like, and you play with it for a long. It takes way too long to get rid of those people because you're convinced. Oh no, maybe it's the team that are the issue. And then,
you make every excuse in the book for them.
Yeah,
trying to buy them more time, thinking, it'll be all right. Yeah, you've all got to just get used to each other.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
I think it's also because the hiring process is quite painful. Like, it's such a laborious, time-consuming thing.
And the firing process is even more painful.
The awkward conversations and then the time, notice periods and all of that. And then you do a trial and then they're not good enough. And it's just like, So it is. It's painful, but it is what it is. How do you combat that when you've got rid of loads of people in the team? Or presumably you've had multiple people leave, but you're whole business is, because agencies really run by the numbers very closely for a long period of time at least, so presumably you needed all of the people that were in the company that
we did. But
recruitment agents or internal HR
we kept a few things going. We lost a few bits and pieces off the back of it because we just couldn't service it, but again you're looking at it and say, right, I'm restructuring this agency into what I want it to be, so there are a few things that are going to go by the wayside that actually financially it's a hit, but work-wise and pleasure, it's not that painful. And it allowed us, within about 8 to 12 months of that, we won our biggest client.
Nice.
That was completely different the part of the business, and it's like getting back to what we love doing. You think, I don't know if I could have done that if I'd have still had that team. If that team had still been in place, and you don't know it at the time, but you look back and think, I don't think we'd have won that if we'd still got those people. And we certainly wouldn't have the people we've now got who are far, far better, because there's no way they would have ever come and worked in a culture that existed then. So it's, again, from running a business perspective, there's no handbook on it, but you've got to be able to sort of say, right, in my gut, this isn't right, this needs to change. And 99 times out of 100, if your gut's saying something isn't right, it's not right. And you've got to do something about it. And it's as painful as it always is painful. There's no getting away from it. It is painful. And it can play on your mind, and the sleepless nights. That's one thing. You look back and say, well, I enjoy the days, hate the nights. And that's the killer, because that's when all of the thoughts come back into your head. And it's not just the financial side of things. It's just what's that relationship with like with those people? With that client. What's the relationship like with that team member? What are they doing? What are they up to? Are they performing as good? They're all the thoughts that come when you're in the midst of it. During the day, everything's a million miles an hour and everything's great. It's only at 2 a.m. when the light bulb suddenly switches back on, and you're like, did we do that right? Did we do that? Have we done enough on that? Have we not done enough? So I love the days, hate the nights.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting. So that doesn't really stop.
Afraid not. Afraid not. I mean, it's kind of weird because you talked about earlier an exit strategy, and we never set this up with an exit strategy, rightly or wrongly, maybe fully screwed. We were only 31 when we set up, so we're still really young, and right. But all we wanted was to enjoy what we do. And so there was no real, we're going to do this. We're going to hit these numbers. In 5 years, we're going to take on this investment. In 10 years, we're going to be out of it completely, and we're all going to sit on a beach somewhere. That was never ever the strategy. And you look at it now and say, well, you could, I get approached, if not daily, weekly, by somebody who wants to buy the agency. So they look up numbers, they look at the work, they go, well, we'll have a bit of that. And the thing is, myself and Rich were talking about it just a couple of days ago. So, the problem is you're then working for somebody else because you've got, if you're going to give it up, you've got to give it up. And somebody else, if they're going to take it on, they've got to take charge of it all.
Yep.
And that's why you're giving it up, because you don't want to have that responsibility anymore. But ultimately, you're then working for somebody else. And the whole reason we set this up in the first place was to not work for somebody else. And I don't know if I want to spend spend the next 5 years doing some earn out, trying to hit some ridiculous. And I've seen it with other agency owners I know where they've sold up, but it's all based on numbers. So it's all based on, well, you've got to hit this number, and it's turned them into the people they never wanted to be, because now instead of caring about the agency, instead of caring about the culture, instead of caring about the long term, and say, right, if we do this work, it's really going to start paying dividends a few years down the line, because we're going to say, don't care about that, because we've got to hit the numbers this year. So I don't care who I upset, I don't care what work I take on and what we end up doing, I've got to hit the numbers, because if I don't hit the numbers, I don't get my payout.
Yeah.
And you just look at it from afar and you go, wow, I don't know.
You've got to be really interested in the business bit, because it's like stepping out of one world and into another one. I had a conversation a few weeks ago with a gent called Alexis, who was sat just where you are, and he sold Mint Twist, an agency, to Finn Partners, and he loves the business. So he loves, and it was fascinating understanding the difference between an agency with 30 team members to then an agency with 30 officers. Huge. But you have to really enjoy that. So I can imagine, as a creative, it's the worst nightmare to then be taken out of your creative baby, and then all of a sudden you have to follow SOPs. So.
And that's the thing. And so I think, depending on which side of the fence you sit in terms of the business, it comes right back to the very beginning of the conversation, doesn't it? Which is, I'm a shit businessman. I'm crap about it. I do what I do. I've been able to make a living out of it. I've been able to build an agency. Between me and Rich, we managed to employ, maybe over the period of time, maybe 100 people. We've been able to keep them employed. We've been able to pay their mortgages. We've been able to sort of, and you just think, wow. But in my heart, I'm just a creative bloke that's trying to do the best he can day in, day out for my clients. That's so and I don't get distracted probably nearly as much as I should do with the running of the business. It's like, no, I want to do this, keep on sort of doing what I enjoy, because that's why we started in the first place. Started to just do something I enjoy. And I heard the conversation you had with Alexis, and I thought it's fantastic, but it's a different mindset to
completely
me in terms
different.
of But it was, at the end of it was like, but what he's done is he's given up the the autonomy of his own agency, and I think it's brilliant, because a lot of people to become almost like a team leader within another agency. And it's like, I get it, and I get why that's another thrill, and it's the next chapter, and it's like, well, actually I'm ready for another challenge, and actually be really good to sort of see what the challenge is like in a big agency and how that all operates, and I could totally get that. It ain't me though. That's
and that's the key. Right? You got to do what's you, and I think many people are so, and I think it's a maturity thing. Lots of people now getting into the agency space are incredibly young. I loved what you just said when you said I was very young. I started my agency at 31, which is a beautiful thing to say, because perceptionally, when you're 30 years old, you think you're old as shit.
Trust me, when you look back on it, you think, my God. The reason I say that was, I mean, coming back to, how did you win business? How did you grow the agency? It's the contacts, it's the knowing people. And at 31, we barely had enough contacts to get the thing up and running and get it rolling. And you think if we'd have left it another 5 years, maybe even 10, so it's in about, late 30s, going into 40, a little black book of contacts that we could have called upon would have been so much bigger. That you say, well, actually, I'd have stood far more of a chance. It would, those early years wouldn't have been such a slog if I'd have waited a few years. But the opportunity came when it came. We were coming out the back of that merger. It was almost it was a conversation with a client who basically, we're doing a TV edit, and the agency hadn't sent down any account handlers. So it's just myself and the client in this TV editing somewhere in London. And she just says, I hate this new lot that you're working with. You're trying to play, I'm on the board. I'm trying to play it kind of, they're all right once you get to know them. Have you ever thought of setting up your own agency? Rich, we've always talked about it. Ever since we met up in 1991, we've always talked about it. But it's probably too soon. Sure. If you did, just give me a call, because I'll probably be your first client. So I got back to the office situation. I had this conversation. I know we always said mid-30s, but the opportunity has presented itself. What do you think? And he was like, "Fuck, we got to do it, haven't we? We've got to do it, because in 5 years' time, the world could have changed." And it did. I mean, 5 years' time was 2008, so the world did change. But it was like, but he was like, "We've got to do it." So we did it. That client instantly resigned and said, I can't do this anymore. And like, what? So we had a new client come in.
They didn't sign up with you, though?
Yeah, they signed up with us.
They did sign with you.
And then basically said, well, but I don't want to do this job anymore. So I'm resigning, and there's a new marketing director coming in. Who've got no relationship whatsoever, right. And they're going to come in and think, what the hell, this isn't an agency. And at the time, it was bizarre, because we set up and we were working out of a back bedroom. Just trying to get in. It was like, we got to get an office, because if the new marketing director comes in for this, and we haven't got an office, we're going to get fired extremely quickly. And there's still a danger that you're going to get fired pretty quickly. But we've just got to get an office. We've got to sign up to a lease. We've got to, we've got to risk it. We've got to just try and just make sure. And bless her, the one good thing she did was she said, right, I'm going to change the contract before I leave into a 6-month notice period. So the worst case scenario is you've got 6 months. Okay, well, that gives us confidence to actually just sign a lease, a 2-year lease, and see if we can get through that. And we ended up working with that client, the new client, for another 5 years, until she left and then was replaced. But she's even come back to us just recently, as a consultant with part of a sustainability thing in Birmingham, and she's a consultant for them. And she saw our name pop up on the list and was like, I've got to go and work with those guys, because I know it. And you just think, wow, the whole thing sort of pans out, and you think.
So this is quite interesting what you said there, just kind of reading through the lines, because so your relationship is entirely with that marketing director in a large company, and so when a new person comes in to you, it's like a new client entirely, because it's just a new relationship with an individual. So at that level, the relationship isn't with the business at all. It's with there's no emotional connection. It's with the individual person. Interesting.
And then when that person leaves, it's. But I think you'll find
it's anyone's game to say, okay, we're going to go with another agency.
And that's been on repeat our entire history. You have the relationship with that marketing team. You don't, because we're not selling a product as such that embeds itself within a company. you're selling ideas to a person.
Yeah.
And ultimately,
they have their own budget.
They move on, and a new person comes in and says, "Well, I've got my own friends down the road, and I can go and I'd rather work with them." And you go, "Okay," because there's no barrier to change, because it's not like they've got to exit. When we were doing all the web stuff, it was kind of, well, there's a bit more of a barrier, because actually to get a new website, to get all the systems, to get all the back end transferred over is quite a complicated thing. So there's a little bit of, I'm going to hang on to this and I'm going to keep you doing this. With what we do as a day-to-day in terms of creativity, well, it's a commodity that I'm buying. That says, well, I can either buy it from you or I can buy it from them. And if I decide to buy it from them, it's no hit on this business whatsoever. So it's the easiest thing within the entire marketing sphere. It's the easiest thing to be able to switch off one person and put on another. And that, again, comes with its own. Love the days, hate the nights.
So presumably for an agency that's listening to this who's thinking, like, I'd love to tap into that kind of level of clientele, or at least work towards that in the future, would you consider in-person events and so on a great place to try and build those relationships initially? Because it's all well and good getting your foot in the ground and getting the referrals, and then you're kind of on your way. But actually going from a place where you're just working with small businesses that you usually reach out to the business owner for, and he makes a decision, or she makes a decision on whether or not they want to work with an agency and so on. What would you say would be a way that people could tap into that upper echelon of client, I suppose?
I think you've always got the danger of believing if you build it, they will come. That doesn't happen. Our own experience is you've got to somehow have a bit of a relationship or an introduction with pretty much everybody you end up working with. Cold calling, cold outreach. It bears a little bit of fruit, but not much. You've got to, virtually everything we've ever worked, or everybody we've ever worked with has been either a contact of ours or a contact of a contact. And you think, oh yeah, so if you're coming into the business now and you don't have, again, that little black book full of names, God, that's tough. How the hell do you must know yourself. I get 10 emails a day saying, would you like to take on an extra 30 clients a month? No, fuck off. And it's like, and so you think about everything that you ignore and just go, not having any, people who reach out to you through the various platforms, or they just cold email you, or they cold call you. How much of it do you actually take any notice of? If you're anything like myself, it's less than 1%. Now, if you're an agency trying to do that from a standing start, that is tough. But we always talk about gateway drugs in terms of when we try to talk to somebody, it's what tiny projects have you got? Something that sits outside of the budget, something that you don't have to get approval of, you don't have to get procurement involved in. It's a tiny little budget, and it's something. What have you got? What have you got? Let us have a look at that. No risk to yourself. We're not going to charge you unless we win it, unless you basically want to do it. But come and talk to us. Or you do it off your own back, and you say, I'm not trying to win your big account, because I know you're not going to fire your agency of record in the next, week just because I've been in touch, and you're not even going to put me on a pitch list for it because you don't know me from Adam. But what's the little project, the one that's absolutely zero risk to you because the budget is that small that it wouldn't matter? Let's have a go at that. And then, we'll show you what we can do. And then hopefully from that, you've instantly got that relationship.
Nice.
And you're then tapping into them, and you say, right, what else have you got? And before you know it, well, actually, there's a pitch coming up for the main account. Do you want to be on it? Yeah, that's what we've done it for. And it might take 2-3 years to get to that point where they're actually comfortable with, calling a pitch, because a pitch is a really big thing for any client to do. It's a real pain in the arse and a time sapper. So they don't like to do it that often. But you're there in the wings, just saying, yeah, we'll have a go at that. Yeah. And then comes to the pitch. Do you want to be part of this? I've seen what you do. I trust you. Yeah, we'll have a go at it. And then you've suddenly got a bit of an in with it. You're not necessarily going to win it, but at least you're far further on. But it's all from just going, like we say, gateway drug. Give them something that's absolutely no danger to them at the moment. And they'll just say, right, there's no big financial risk, and there's not really a massive risk if it works or it doesn't. So I'm not going to be hauled in front of the board for wasting tens of thousands of pounds or hundreds of thousands of pounds on something that then hasn't worked. It's, well, actually, I've got a little £5,000 project here for you. I don't have to go through procurement because it's under 10 grand. You want to have a look at that? And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, who cares? And you just give it your all. And then you go, right, okay. And then next one. So that's what I'd suggest to anybody who's trying to get anything. Gateway drug.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Broadly speaking, if you were to go to like 10 pitches, and obviously it's going to have changed massively over the years with your reputation and so on, like, what should someone expect for a success rate on a pitch if they're pretty decent at what they do? If you're ballpark, 10%, 50%?
We set our benchmark at 60.
Okay.
So at the moment now, we want to win 6 out of 10 things we go for.
And then early days, what would you
early days would have been 10% tops, 1 in 10. Yeah, if you get 1 in 10, you're doing well. Now we basically try and qualify things a little bit more, as to whether it's. I mean, again, procurement has become so much more of a thing in our world that you can now usually spot from a mile away. You need a third quote. Got no intention of giving us this business at all because it's not really a comfortable fit with what we are or what we do. But you're looking at us and thinking, yeah, I've got a mate that'll do this for 20 grand. I know you're going to say 80, and I need 3 quotes. So if I get you to quote on it, that 20 grand looks really, really cheap for procurement.
And then presumably you haven't been paid anything for that. So
no.
you're and how much time investment are you putting in?
I mean, this is the thing. Every pitch that we do has a minimum of 10 grand spent on it. Minimum.
Wow.
In terms of time.
Wow.
So if we do it properly.
Yeah.
And
that must be very frustrating, but it's factored into the business, isn't it? Yeah. That's it.
And it again becomes you work with certain organisations and they put out an open tender, and you look at it and you go, right, we don't, again, try and avoid open tenders. Absolute waste of time. But they put out an open tender and you go, right, but that's perfect. It's the perfect fit. We've got the right case studies. They're wanting what we do, but it's an open tender and you gnaws away at you. Do we do it? Do we do it? You start tentatively looking at it and you go, right, yeah. We did one recently. I won't say it was because we didn't get on the list, but we basically 250 agencies went for it. And now they got it down to we didn't find 20 agencies pitching. Now we were one of the 20. You think, well, we spend 10 grand minimum on it. There's another 19 that have spent 10 grand minimum on it. So that's a huge investment. And then you get the most annoying thing about it. We're looking for best value for the taxpayer. Hello, pay my tax bill on time every time. Yeah, and I've just invested all this, and so have all these other agencies. And you've had so much work. And again, it comes down to the client side. It's like if you go, I understand it from a procurement perspective that they say, "Well, you've got to do this," but as a marketing director, as a marketing team, if you can't pull together 3 agencies that you believe are right for your business, or maximum of 5, to say let's just have a few meetings, see if we get on, and see if you can't get that down to 5 minutes, what the hell have you been doing within this industry? Because you should be aware of 5 agencies that you want to work with, and so they are right for us. You shouldn't be saying, well, actually, I'll put this out to an open tender, there's 250 and I can only get it down to 20. No, you should have known before that even went out that the 5 agencies that you wanted to put through the mill. And yeah, it's
dog eat dog.
It is. It really is, and but it is a dog eat dog industry. It's always been the same. I don't see it ever changing. But you know what? Most people you meet in this industry are really nice people. Yeah, and I think from the outside there's this image of us and this this thing, but you meet very few other agency people who aren't nice people, because it's built into us. We have to please. We have to, we have to, and that you just think, and that's that, So it's a really nice industry, and I think again, it's almost there's a secret to the longevity of myself and Rich. We worked together now 33 years. It's like, how the hell do you do that as a creative duo? Sitting opposite each other and saying each other's ideas are crap day in, day out. How do you keep that going? And I was like, there's always a common hatred between us. Not a common admiration. There's a common hatred between us. But you keep it to yourself. So you just say, well, I think that's shit. And you hate either other agencies or but you keep it to yourself. I'm not one of those who would ever go on the internet and bitch about another agency or another bit of creative, because I don't think that's ever fair, knowing the mechanics behind everything that happens. But the two of us, where there's always been somebody or an organisation or something that you just say, and it drives you. That's a motivation. We've got to do better than them. Yeah, we've got to, and it's not a hatred as in hatred. It's just I've got to do better than them. We've got to be better. We've got to be better. And there's little people you admire, but you often admire different people. Yeah. Very often we hate the same person or the same organisation.
You connect on that. So you've got a new office in Manchester, so you're expanding in the business. Can you talk me through that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just basically, just lately, it's been, well, should we start dipping our toe into the Manchester scene? So it was, I think there's Manchester's always been an exciting city. Birmingham is a great city, and I love it, but the industry is quite widespread. So if you look in the city centre, there are very few agencies in the city centre. We're one of them, but a lot of the agencies are kind of on the outskirts. You go to Manchester, and a lot, it becomes a little bit more of an interesting scene, because it's pretty much more central within Manchester. And so you think, well, actually, that's something that we'd like to be part of in terms of things, but also client-wise. But I mean, I think I saw yesterday, the day before, whenever it was, a reporting campaign about all this money that's left Manchester to go to London, and there's a problem. And I think there is a problem within the regions in terms of the magnet or the vacuum that is London, just hoovering everything up. And you just think, well, London's always been an option for an office, but it's not peeled that much.
I'm not a fan of London.
Yeah, it's
just London.
And it's a great place to visit. But I don't know if I'd want an office down here, and I'd have to come down here on a regular basis. But Manchester, well, actually,
it's cool.
I'd love Manchester. So you think, well, there's a thing, and we do a lot of stuff that you think this now. What we've done in Birmingham over the last 20 years, a lot of it does kind of transfer quite easy to another regional city. And so I think if you're going to pick another regional city to start spreading your wings, well, Manchester's probably the best one to start tapping into. We looked at it, and it was Leeds an option? You think, don't really know that much in terms of Leeds, even though I'm from Yorkshire originally. I still don't know that much about it. And I don't want to go any further north. Got to be able to sort of get there quite. And then you think, so where would you go? And to have a base both in Birmingham and Manchester. I mean, Birmingham will always be our heartland, because that's where we've been our entire careers. But you just think, actually, now, as we're getting to that age, But you just think, actually, I want to just look over the wall and see what's over there. And see if we can do anything that opens up some new opportunities for us to do some fun stuff.
So as you're doing that, what's the play like? So because everything's built on relationships and referrals and so on, do you reach out to your existing network and see who knows who in Manchester? Do you do some cold outreach, or are there events that you're going to? Like, how are you then building that?
We've basically got somebody up in Manchester that's looking out for us, and so trying to root out some opportunities for us to be able to move more into there. But we've got somebody actually based in Manchester now, sort of just sniffling around.
Nice.
And trying to get us a little bit of something that says, well, actually, just let us get that foot in the door.
A little seed.
Yeah. Foot in the door.
Gateway drug.
Gateway drug, and then we're moving in.
There's plenty of them in Manchester.
We're going to turn it into the new Miami.
Fantastic. Well, on that note, Jon, it's been a pleasure speaking to you.
And you, thank you.
Yeah. Have you got any final pieces of advice for people that are getting into the game these days?
Work harder than you've ever worked before in your life. It is such a privilege to be part of this industry, to do this for a living, to have, if you get to the point where you can one day run your own agency, it is such a buzz. It's such a ride. It's worth the effort. I mean, when we first set up, for the first 2 years, we worked till midnight every night. We were in a leased office, and we had to be out at midnight. That's the only reason we left. And we worked every single day as hard as that, because there was the fear of failure. You just got to keep on going. And that was difficult with a young family. But you look back and go, actually, it was worth it, because that put the bedrock in. So if you're going to start your own agency, the bedrock you put down in those first couple of years is what keeps you going, because so many don't make it. They really don't. And there are many, many reasons why you won't make it. However, you don't want lack of effort to be the one of them. You don't want to look back at it and say, I could have tried harder. You've got to give it your absolute everything. And it's, not just financially, just in terms of who you are, what you enjoy doing, how you spend your days. It's so rewarding, and it's such a privilege to be part of it.
Spot on.